Oh my gosh. Well, and I was just
But
saying that's
never
the
mind.
beauty of this whole thing that's going on, right? I mean, it's not just, and I will tell you what I've been saying in the board meetings, but when I started, there was hardly anybody. And the beauty about this movement that's going on right now is that parents are waking up. And parents are showing, I mean, at one board meeting, a couple board meetings ago, we had the whole boardroom filled and we had 2 overflow rooms. I mean,
Nice.
that is like unprecedented, right? People don't see
Yeah,
that. And this is like parent involvement to a new level. But really
seriously.
it's because we're concerned about our babies, right? We're
That's
concerned
right.
about their future. And so when I started coming, it was just to get them back into school,
Hmm.
honestly. Uh, and there was a huge movement around that, but I think that kind of was what awakened parents, right? The fact that they were home and quarantined and they got to see
Yeah.
what their kids were learning. Um, and so I was alone and the only person researching this for a
Mm.
long time. I think maybe there was pockets of people across the nation. I found them,
Yeah.
through other parent
Yeah.
organizations, but
Yeah.
uh, I started bringing up the fact of Castle, right? So Castle is the organization that sets the 5 core competencies that all SEL programs are measured against, right? So they're like the gold standard, and they
Mm-hmm.
basically rank SEL programs based on kind of the boxes they tick in what they want to do with SEL. And so in 2020, amidst the pandemic and the racial riots and everything else, they kind of quietly updated their standards
Hmm.
and said, okay, well, now we want to have transformative social emotional learning, which is social emotional
Hmm.
learning done through an equity lens. And they're white papers for the last few years, and they've been basically kind of cooking this up for a while. But they
Hmm.
had this initiative from 2019 to 2021 that they wanted to start building this um, racial equity lens in their social
Hmm.
emotional learning, and that would be the whole purpose of SEL. And so their white papers sound like the Communist Manifesto. They talk about wealth and whiteness and dominant US culture. And I mean, it's just, of course, all of the critical race theory concepts you hear, right? Systemic racism,
Yep.
everything's built to hold down people of color.
Hmm.
And this is what they wanted to accomplish. And you think, oh, SEL, and this is what makes it a perfect Trojan horse for this stuff, is that SEL is meant to teach kids things like empathy and perspective taking and goal setting and things like that.
Hmm.
So parents are like, great, those are skills I totally want my kids to learn.
Right. Right.
Amazing. The school's going to teach them that for me. And I'm just going to,
Right. Well,
you know, um,
mm,
I'm a parent and I should be teaching my kid these things, but great, the school will
absolutely.
supplement them. But no, that's not what this is about. This is about teaching your kid that they have power and privilege,
Hmm.
that they should have, advocate and be social justice activists for particular ideologies.
Yep.
And so it goes far beyond just, oh, be kind to people who are different than you. It's
Right.
like, no, you have to accept if there's more than 2 genders, and you have to call people by their pronouns, and you have to
That's right.
do all of these things, even if maybe you don't personally believe in those things. Maybe you have come from a religious culture or whatever. But really, they want to teach your kids these things in the classroom.
Yeah. That is so true. I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's just something that they're teaching the kids. It's not really something that they're trying to make them do. And I think that's the part that a lot of parents miss. Parents know that when they hear what this stuff is, they know it's bad. They many times I think they assume that that's not really that's somebody else's school, that's somebody else's kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think that many of us miss is the activist portion of Marxism, the activist
Mm-hmm.
portion of critical race theory
Right.
or queer theory or
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff is it's not just, and Ibram X Kendi says it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Robin DiAngelo says this too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough for you to sort of know that there's racism. You have to actively do the work to tear down the racism, to tear down the system. And that part is where we get into some very, very dangerous territory. I mean, the ideas alone are dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
but that is how they get pushed into society. When they are actively doing the work, to be an anti-racist, or whatever the term of the day is. That is where, in my opinion, that's that's the stuff that we really have to be, I don't want to say afraid, because I am not afraid of these people.
Mm-mm.
And but I think we have to really be concerned. That's where, to me, the focus needs to be, because that's the real part that's going to tear down society. If it was just an idea, or just someone talking about something, that's one thing. But when you have people organized and strategically placed in these institutions, and actively turning your child into an activist,
Mm-hmm.
that is a problem.
A real
And
problem.
yeah, and I don't think that parents get that. I'm trying
Mhm.
to figure out what is that tipping point that turns concerned parents into the activists against this stuff. Like, how do we make that turn for parents, to get them to help them understand this is not just some idea. This is not
Right.
just you know what I mean? Like, what would be your advice to parents who are maybe thinking like, well, it's just an idea. Well, it's not my kid, somebody else's kid. It's not really happening. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I think in my experience, and you probably remember this from my presentation for Freedom Works in DC. Uh, Actually, a parent from a parent group came up to me afterwards, and she said, halfway through your presentation, I had to look down and play with my phone because the stuff you're talking about is so disturbing. And what I was talking about that she was having such trouble with is the fact that they're going to use the whole purpose of SEL, right? Is to draw kids away from the ideals of their parents and their families,
Mhm.
and to teach them what they think these they want them to learn as far as government instilled values, attitudes, and
Right.
beliefs. And so not only are they teaching them this in school, but they're also assessing them. So, you've heard of Panorama. It's been big in the news
Right.
because attorney A.G. Garland's
Yeah.
son-in-law was a co-founder of that company. Well, they
Yeah.
put out SEL assessments. And so
Hmm.
they're having these kids taking surveys or assessments or whatever they call them, right? Every company calls them something different.
Yeah.
Basically, they're measuring your kids' values, attitudes, and beliefs. And if they
Hmm.
don't line up with what they think they should be, there's going to be this score that follows them from
Yeah.
preschool to age 20. And uh, when they talk about using SEL in the classroom, they're trying to say they're going to build this emotionally intelligent workforce of the future. And this really kind of goes into, okay, well, if we're going to be measuring these skills and these are going to be the things they're going to hire on, right? These soft skills, how empathetic are you? How inclusive are you?
Mm.
That's a scary thought, because if your child has religious beliefs because they grew up in a family with religious beliefs,
Hmm.
and they don't believe there are more than two genders, what's going to
Yep.
happen to their social emotional score? Is it going to go down?
Right.
Um, are they going to be able to get into college? Are they going to be able
Yeah.
to get a job? And I think
Right.
that's where you get parents involved, as they start thinking, whoa, wait a second. Um, they're going to be putting them in a box, right? You have to think
Mm.
or believe this way. Otherwise, you can't be a functioning member of society.
Wow. That is, I think that's a good point. I think maybe I'm asking these questions because I want to figure out better ways to get parents, more activated into this and more involved. And so, so when they look back, they're not saying, like, gosh, the country, the country's gone, and you're thinking you have all this regret because you're like, I could have done something and I didn't. And so um I think that's something that I'll implement, when I'm having these talks, is the idea that we want to tell we want to tell parents and kids at certain ages, it's not just about what's that you're just filling out a piece of paper. Basically, you're not just
Mhm.
filling out a survey, but
Right.
this is to program you
Mhm.
for your future. This is to cast, possibly, probably cast you out of society. Hopefully that will, like click with parents, just like that woman said, because it is heavy.